have a good time on this show, and we are having a tremendous time right now at Howard University, part of our HBCU tour. And guys, we got some football games this weekend, a full slate. Let's get into the keys of these games. And Shannon, I'll start with you. When we look at the Eagles at Saints, incredible NFC matchup. Saints are favored by 2.5. What do you think's the key to this game, Shay?
I think the Saints' ability on offense to do multiple things. They can run the football, they can throw. Obviously, they play action off of that. I still don't trust the Eagles' defense. I'll be willing to give the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to take the Saints in the 2.5 that they're giving up. I think they're going to cover that easy.
I think so as well. I think that the Saints are just a better team right now. I think the Eagles got a lot of problems to fix, and I don't think to expect them to fix it now on the road in New Orleans, I can't see it.
Who's the most important player in this matchup?
To me, Alvin Kamara. I mean, if he's effective the way that he was last week, the Eagles have no chance.
Well, I'm going to look on the defensive side of the football, Stephen A. You got to take one of those. Jalen Carter is now or never. They brought you in. Fletcher Cox retired. You guys have to shut down, starting with you, because I believe you are the best player on the defensive side of the football. You need to be dominant. You have that kind of ability. He needs to take this game over.
All right, let's get into the Chiefs and the Falcons. And Shannon, I know you have a lot of love for Atlanta. After that primetime game, everybody wrote them off, and now we're looking at the Falcons here. What's the key to this one?
I'm going to take, you know what? I think the Chiefs will win, but I think the Falcons are going to cover. They're better than you think. They really are. They can run. I love Bijan Robinson. They got weapons on the outside, Drake London, Mooney. They got Kyle Pitts. They can run the football with Algier and Robinson. And the defense is a little underrated because I think the thing is that when you look at Kansas City, their left tackle got benched. And you remember last year, Stephen, early in the season, they had offensive line issues. They lose Pacheco. Now, obviously, they signed Kareem Hunt. Are they going to be able to run the football? Because over the last 6.5 games of last year into the playoffs and starting this year, they have become more of a running football team to alleviate some of the pressure on Patrick Mahomes and take some of that pressure off the offensive line. I think the Falcons cover, but I'm taking the Chiefs to win.
I'm going to pick the Falcons to win. I think Bijan Robinson's going to have a big game. I think Kirk Cousins got that win under his belt. They're on their home turf. The Chiefs are ailing right now from a health perspective. I think if there was ever a weekend when the Kansas City Chiefs are vulnerable, it'll be this weekend. And I think the Atlanta Falcons still won.
All right, S.A., Ravens at Cowboys. What do you think is the key to this game and the most important player?
I think that, Derrick Henry, you're the Ravens, you hand him the football. If you can't run on the Cowboys, just give up the damn running game because these guys let you run all over them. You should be able to handle your business if you're the Baltimore Ravens. You should go into Dallas and you should run roughshod over them, accumulate 180 to about 200 yards on the ground. That's what I think is going to happen to the Cowboys in this game, and that's why I think the Ravens are going to win.
I like the Ravens also, but I think Lamar Jackson's going to have a big game running the football. I think Lamar Jackson's going to get outside. He's going to use his legs. He says, he's healthy.
Get up and let's keep it rolling with some football here. Sunday statements. Who needs to make a statement this Sunday? Ryan Clark, I'll start with you.
I'm going to go with Brock Purdy, and not because we don't know enough about Brock Purdy, but here's the time that he can step up for his team when he doesn't have the perfect situation around him. No Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel banged up, George Kittle missing practice yesterday. This will be his chance against the Rams to show that he doesn't need everyone around him to lift him up, that he can lift up the people that need him most.
Yeah, that team has been decimated here early. Mike T, who needs a statement?
Derrick Henry, early and often. Last week, Reedy had 79 of his 84 yards in the second half. Dallas gives up the most rushing touchdowns, 5. Get Lamar Jackson under center. They've only been under center about 18% of the time. Get under center, give Derrick Henry the ball in the first half, and exploit this porous Dallas run defense. That's how Baltimore has a chance to get back on track.
We're going to dive deep on that game in just a few minutes here. Graz, who needs to make a statement Sunday?
Jared Goff. The Lions are believed to be a Super Bowl contender. They're 1-1. Jared Goff hasn't played well. He's 25th in the league in QBR, just behind Justin Fields and Daniel Jones. Jared Goff has to be better than that if the Lions are going to be as good as they want to be. This is an Arizona defense that can be had. He needs a big game this week.
That's a good stat. Bart, who needs to make a statement this Sunday?
Well, Greeny, attitude reflects leadership, and the unquestioned leader on the Philadelphia Eagles team now is Jalen Hurts. I'm not blaming him for last week's loss, but he has to be the difference in games where the other quarterback on the sideline is ranked probably lower than you and Derek Carr. he's going to have to be the difference. No Jason Kelsey, no Fletcher Cox. He has to make sure that he can lead them and navigate them through tough waters, unlike last year when they collapsed.
Well, so let's dive into that. And we started it earlier in the show this morning, and we ran out of time. So now we have a moment to get into it. RC, you were there on Monday night for what was a horrible loss. And that's a terrible game to lose if you're the Eagles. Yeah. And the time for talking about whether they made the right play call, wrong play call, that's all over with. Here's what I do know. As at RC, we all spent all offseason talking about how will the Eagles handle adversity. With all the stuff that happened to them in the second half of last season, how will they well, they've hit adversity. So what is your sense of how they get through it? What is your sense of what is at stake for them this week?
And not only have they hit adversity, they're playing a team that seems to understand their identity more than any other team in the entire NFL right now in the New Orleans Saints. I think this is going to be a gut check week for the Philadelphia Eagles. How do you show up to the stadium? What sort of energy and attitude does this team have? And if they do get down, if they give up a big play on defense, who will be that guy now that Fletcher Cox is going to step up and make a play? Will Bryce Huff finally have a showing in this game? Is C.J. Gardner-Johnson going to be that emotional leader on the back end? And can Jalen Hurts elevate this offense enough that if he's not getting what he needs from his defense, they can still find a way to win? This won't make or break the Philadelphia Eagles season if they go out and approach it the right way. But that remains to be seen, because what we saw after that 10-1 start last year was absolutely unacceptable.
There have been a lot of questions about leadership there, right? Jalen Hurts taking sort of control. Questions about the head coach and all of that in the wake of last year's collapse. What are your thoughts?
I mean, that's what I was trying to allude to earlier. You talk about losing those leadership, so now you're the guy that people come to and lean to when things get tough. And Jalen Hurts has to make sure that he's able to elevate and be a force multiplier with the people around him, because I don't know how much these guys believe in what they're being told from an offensive and defensive side of the football. They're learning two systems. So now you got to have somebody that can keep everybody together. He has to be the voice, but he has to continue to do it with his play, but he has to be able to inspire guys as well.
Bart, I got to push back on that. They're a Saquon Barkley drop away from being 2-0 with two new coordinators. That's good coaching.
But we're here already. But what I'm saying is now they face another team that maybe you can get two losses. No matter how you got there, you can get two losses back-to-back. And we saw this team not handle adversity well last year. You talked about the relationship between the head coach and the quarterback. We got to keep everybody pulling the rope the same direction, because we know what happens. You can have fractured locker rooms and people start talking, and that seems to be what happened last year when they fell apart.
I really think the problem's on the other side of the ball.
It is.
It's a team that
he's responsible for that too.
No, absolutely. But you bring in Vic Fangio, make him one of the highest paid defensive coordinators, has all this experience. Like, that's to me where the conversation should be. What Jalen Hurts is doing, again, they did everything within reason to win that game, and then Atlanta goes down in 5 plays, 90 yards to win it. Like, that to me is where the problem is.
And by the way, Dan, against a struggling defense like the Eagles have, you saw up close and personal what that Saints offense might just do.
That's the thing. Like, I don't think the fact that the Eagles are 1-1 or suffered a tough loss is because of some systemic problem in their locker room, right? Like, I think their locker room's okay. Most teams are kind of like the Eagles right now, right? They're still kind of feeling their way into the season, figuring out what they want to. I mean, you know, ineligible man downfield penalties. I mean, stuff they need to clean up and likely will. Unfortunately for the Eagles, they have to go on the road and play one of the teams that is humming, like is already in midseason form, not dipping its toe into the season. Like, the Saints are locked in right now. So I think the Eagles could lose this game. Absolutely. I don't think the important thing for the Eagles is whether they win or lose. I think it's how they look and how they feel. I mean, RC was absolutely right. Like, what are they like getting off the bus? Like, how prepared are they for the game? They could play great and get beaten on Sunday.
Let's put the picks up on the screen so we see what everybody thinks. Will they find a way to bounce back? That is a clean sweep saying no. RC, quickly, why do you like New Orleans?
The Saints are just so dang good. When you watch the way Clint Kubiak has this offense humming, it is like, it's almost like watching two different offenses based on what they want to do to you. If they want to come out and punch you in the mouth and hand the ball to Alvin Kamara, they can dominate you physically at the line of scrimmage. If they want to push the football down the football field, they can max protect Derek Carr, and he has an arm, and there's a freaking track meet on the outside with Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave. I love everything about this team, and not to mention, they've always been championship caliber on defense since DeMario Davis has been there. But right now, they run and they hit and they cover like nobody's business defensively, and it's being fed by an offense that can put the other team behind on the scoreboard.
So no one likes the Eagles in that one. Let's stay in their division. Monster game for the Cowboys this week as they take on, have allowed 92 points in their last 2 home games, while the Ravens are trying to fall into the kind of hole that almost no one digs out of. Let me give you a stat here. In the last 25 seasons, 129 teams have started 0-3, and the 2018 Texans are the only ones who turned that around and made the playoffs. So, you know, the guys I do Sunday Countdown with screamed at me last week when I suggested that something could be a must-win in Week 2. Is this a must-win for the Ravens in Week 3?
I believe so, and they have to also come to grips with what their identity is, and I think they struggle with that. You know, I think it's still Isaiah Likely, 12 personnel. We saw last week, you know, the throws down the field.
What should their personality be, Bart? I'm making you their coach. What should their offense be for them to get where everyone thinks they should be?
But for me, stand on brand with what the organization has always been. It's been about shots over the top. I think it should always start with the ground game. The unfortunate part is
Again, he only has 2 touchdown passes, so that's their problem. They can't convert and score touchdowns, and that's why they need to change their personnel.
Well, I mean, that brings up the predictability of it. RC, let me come to you as a great defensive player for a long time, and let me explain for those who didn't see it. What Dan Orlovsky has basically said is the Ravens have the biggest tell, literally and figuratively, in the NFL, which is that when Derrick Henry is on the field, they go under center, and they run it every single time. And when he's not on the field, they go into the gun, and they throw it pretty much all of the time. So you tell me, what's this going to look like this Sunday against a Dallas team that has been shredded on the defensive side?
Yeah, so they do have a tell, but when you look at that game, especially probably in the middle of it, second and third quarter when they got some things rolling, there was play action with Derrick Henry in the game. Some of his bigger runs in the second half were from the gun and from the pistol. And so I'm not saying that Todd Monken and this team figured this thing out, but there were some good signs that said they could continue moving forward with playing in a way that makes Lamar Jackson comfortable. I think to totally change everything you do and make Lamar Jackson, who played under Bobby Petrino, so he was in spread and could see everything from the shotgun in college, and then now in the league, Jackson comfortable, and that's the way we're moving, and that's who I believe the Ravens will be.
So as we put the picks up on the screen, Graziano, I'll admit, I'm surprised by your pick. You covered the game last week in Dallas. You saw that defense get humiliated. I don't even know what the right word is to describe it. Why do you like the Cowboys in this game?
They were humiliated by an offense that knows exactly what it is and what it wants to be. And I think all the conversation we're having here about the Ravens, it underlines the fact that they aren't yet, right? Like, are they going to be able to go under center enough to get Derrick Henry going? If they do, Lamar Jackson's uncomfortable. Are they going to be able to run Derrick Henry out of the shotgun? If they do, then Derrick Henry's uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like, so they're still piecing together how much of each element they need. And they're doing it with 3 new starters on the offensive line, and that is taking a lot of adjusting. And they're doing it with a new defensive coordinator and some changes on that side of the ball. It's just a team that doesn't feel like it's all the way together yet.
Let me give a number. Stick, give me my ear again. The Cowboys are a 1-point home underdog in this game. What's the last time they were an underdog at home? I saw the stat before it came in, and I forgot what it was. It goes back. It was Tom Brady coming in as a Buccaneer against the Cowboys. Wow. And I believe Dak didn't play in that game, right? That was against the Cooper Rush Cowboys, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember.
That was the last. Oh, I'm sorry. That was the last time Dak was a home underdog. We're doing this on the fly. So that's the last time. So these are pretty rare games. Super quick.
I'll give you another stat. Dallas is 12-2 after a loss since 2021. I know Baltimore is desperate, but so are the Cowboys.
Yep. Yeah, and Bart is picking Baltimore because he's Bart, and we can always count on that.
Lamar Jackson's record against the NFC, he doesn't lose to the NFC. Let's pull that stat up too, Mike T.
He needs a chance to play them at the very end of the year. That's what he needs. We'll see what he does on Sunday. WNBA player
Draymond Green's comments overlooked in latest Warriors trade proposal. After their pursuit of LeBron James during the midseason trade deadline in February, there remains a possibility that the Golden State Warriors could make another run if the Los Angeles Lakers stumble out of the gate next season. In fact, the buzz surrounding James potentially joining what has been one of his biggest rivals has only intensified this offseason, following his and Stephen Curry's standout performances for Team USA at the recent Paris Olympics. the excitement of seeing James and Curry as NBA teammates has refused to die down. Current and former players have voiced interest in making it happen, and major outlets like ESPN have even sketched out a 2-year plan for the legendary duo to unite on the same team. This has led to a new trade proposal, with Grant Hughes of Bleacher Report recently suggesting the Warriors could send Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, Kevin Looney, and essentially 3 first-round picks in exchange for the 39-year-old superstar. Draymond Green's previous comments on a LeBron James trade are being ignored. The biggest flaw in this proposal is that it completely disregards what Golden State forward Draymond Green has previously said about the possibility of trading for James. Green, who has built a close relationship with James, was reportedly one of the key figures pushing for the trade in February, even going so far as to send messages to their mutual agent, Rich Paul, in an effort to convince James to make the move. However, the veteran forward made it clear that if the trade involved Golden State's prized young talent Jonathan Kuminga, he wouldn't be on board. When I spoke to Joe Lacob on the phone and we were discussing what we'd have to give up, I said if it's Kuminga, the answer is no, Green said during All-Star Weekend in February. If Green wasn't willing to part with Kuminga for James then, why would the Warriors front office be any more eager now? If anything, you'd expect Green to be more open to the trade than the decision-makers. What could have changed between now and then? Is Golden State really more desperate after this offseason? Could Kuminga's contract situation now play a bigger role in potentially including him in a trade for James? Regardless, it seems Green's comments have either been forgotten or ignored in this latest trade suggestion. Trading away so much for a 39-year-old James would be a massive overpayment for the Warriors, especially when considering that James could once again opt out of his contract and become an unrestricted free agent next offseason. Not to mention, James has a no-trade clause that gives him significant control over where he goes. This scenario not only assumes the Lakers would start the season poorly enough for James to even consider requesting a trade, but that the Warriors would be struggling to the point of desperation, leading them to overpay, as this proposal suggests.